And we're live. Check it out. We are live on Facebook. Hey, everybody. Michael Hellickson here with Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting. And I am super stoked. We have with us today Mr. Eric Eby. And Eric, for those of you that don't know him, is in the hustling, bustling metropolis of Bentonville, Arkansas. Eric is a rock star, and I don't even remember your numbers. I can't wait to find out. But Eric crushes it. Eric did very, very well last year. He is on the Brian Curtis team. And let me tell you something, man. Eric is about to take over that entire team. And for those of you that know Brian, you know Brian's a rock star. And on an earlier webinar today, and Eric, I don't know if you saw it, but on an earlier webinar today, Brian mentioned, and I know who he was talking about. He says, you know, there's actually people on my team that are an even better listing agent than I was. And I know he was talking about Eric Eby. So super stoked to have you. The reason for the webinar today is Eric is going to be one of our speakers at Listing Agent Bootcamp coming up May 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. The 7th is the free day, right, where you don't even have to be registered for the event to attend on the 7th. We've got some of our sponsors and partners are going to be doing some classes during that day, including Frank Klesitz of Viral Marketing, Gabe Cordova of Firepoint. He's the president of Firepoint. He's also Firepoint is our title sponsor at the event. Freaking love those guys. Gabe at one point in time did 800 transactions in a single year with his team. Yeah, pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And so that being said, we're super stoked about the event, and we're super stoked that Eric is going to be speaking at the event. And Eric, you're going to be talking, if I remember right, about just lead generation sources, which is what we're going to talk about today. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
I'm excited for it.
I'm stoked too. And I saw your presentation, and so I literally went through every single PowerPoint. We got a whole bunch of speakers and a whole bunch of PowerPoints. Let me tell you something. This was no small task.
Yeah.
I went through every single one of those PowerPoints line by line by line. And I got to tell you, Eric, yours was phenomenal. So here's what I want to know from you. First of all, tell us briefly about you, who you are, where you're from, your production level, and what makes you special. And then I'm going to go right into lead generation sources that have worked very well for you.
Okay. Well, Eric Eby with the Curtis Realty Group here in Northwest Arkansas. I've been on Brian's team. In my third year on Brian's team. I started out as a buyer's agent. I did 30 transactions my first year as a buyer's agent on Brian's team. And then we transitioned me to a listing agent after the BSM 2016. I became a listing agent there and was a listing agent all year last year. I did right at 40 transactions last year. Mostly listings. I did have some buyers that I had nurtured and some referrals that I had received, but it was mostly listings. And this year my goal is 100 transactions. It's a big, scary goal, but I'm real close to being on track. I'm probably just a few deals behind, but my coach Misty Bruton and I have got a good plan for doing a little bit of sprinting for the rest of this year. And so I feel like I'm going to get real close to that 100. If I don't, it won't be from lack of trying at all. So pretty excited about it and excited to go to Listing Agent Bootcamp in Denver. I always learn a ton of stuff at those events, so I'm super excited and very honored to be included in that as one of the featured speakers at that event. So thanks again, Michael.
Well, and it's a big deal, and I don't mean to be weird about it or anything, but it really is a big deal to be a speaker at our events, and I'll tell you why. We don't put anybody on stage that's not a rock star, frankly. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's a lot of events out there in the real estate space where they'll put people on stage because they owe somebody a favor, or because it was part of getting them to show up and be a sponsor, or show up and bring other people with them, or something like that. That's not how our events work. Like, it's a meritocracy. You earn it, right? You're a rock star. Therefore, we want you on our stage. And by the way, shout out. We got all kinds of people watching today. We got Rich Phillips, David Golden, Angie Cody, Tori Kim, Ileana, Craig, Lindsay, Mark, Linky. I mean, holy cow, I could go on and on and on. I appreciate you guys watching today. So let's jump right into this. I want to talk about lead sources. You're coaching with Coach Misty Bruton. Coach Misty is no slouch at creating leads and driving leads. You are doing a very good job of that as well. What I want to know is, what are your best converting lead sources right now? And we'll start with buyers, and then we're going to go to listings.
Well, I don't work with a ton of buyers anymore because my role being a listing agent on the team, we don't want to have me doing too much of the buyer stuff, so I can focus on the listings. But you know,
so hold on, let me stop you right there for a second. Hold on. So I want people to hear this for a second. So you used to work primarily with buyers.
Correct.
Now you work primarily with sellers.
Yes.
Do you believe that it is important for agents to specialize in one or the other?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because it's, you know, being a buyer's agent, especially in a market like we're in Northwest Arkansas, where homes are selling so quickly, you don't have as much control over your schedule as a buyer's agent as you do a listing agent. It's pretty rare that I get a phone call from a seller saying, I need you to come list my house right this second, you know, and working with buyers, you know, you get a house that hits the market that's in that average price range, it's probably going to be gone in 24 to 48 hours. So you have to be way more available to show the buyers those houses. So being able to do both, it's very difficult to do both sides of it because it takes your focus from one thing to the other. And I'm very focused on listings and increasing my business through listings, and we can leverage those listings to get more buyer leads for our team. So that's what's important to me, is getting as many listings as I can and ultimately helping our team, you know, get a lot of sales off of those listings.
And by the way, shout out to Coach Misty Bruton, who is now watching us live. No pressure.
What's up, Misty?
We got Vincent Jaramillo, Michelle Marinelli, and Angela Austin Reed. We got a ton of people joining us. But here's the thing. I love what you're saying, because when you were a buyer's agent, you were very good at buyer's agent stuff. And you did a very good job as a buyer's agent. I know you were closing a ton of transactions. You got really good at it. But you transitioned into being a listing agent. Now, let me ask you this. Which do you think was the better fit for you, buyer's agent or listing agent?
That's a good question. I enjoy both. I feel like I'm probably, you know, I don't like tooting my own horn just like Brian doesn't, but I'm good at both. But I feel like I'm probably better suited for sellers just because of my sales abilities, you know, and just being able to drive home the value that we're going to get that seller. And then, you know, with sellers, you really got to ask for that sale more so than you do with buyers. I mean, you still have to ask buyers, you know, to write an offer and stuff like that. But with sellers, you have to be a little more aggressive. And I'm not really a high D, like most people probably assume I am, but I do get in there and I do close the deals, and it's very satisfying to get, you know, a listing. I feel a better sense of satisfaction from closing a listing appointment than I do from buyer appointments.
So, and that's very interesting, because some people are just the opposite, but you hit a nail on the head, which is you're more aggressive as a listing agent than you are as a buyer's agent. So then let's talk about seller lead sources. Forget the buyer lead sources for a second. Let's jump right into seller lead sources. Okay. What are you doing? And by the way, even in how you handle those lead sources, correct me if I'm wrong, but in how you handle those lead sources, you have a different personality type in working with sellers than you would in working with buyers. True or false?
100% true. You know, in a market like we're in Northwest Arkansas, where homes are selling really quickly, there's a lot of sellers assume that they can do it on their own and they don't need an agent. So there's always the challenge of, you know, going in there and talking to somebody who's 3 neighbors down the street have all sold for sale by owner, and why do I need you? And it's all about being able to present, you know, that's one of my strengths, is my listing presentation, and just being able to build value in all the things that we're going to do to cast a really wide net to get you maximum exposure. And that's how you get top dollar in the shortest amount of time. You can probably do it on your own, but I'm going to get it in front of more people, which is going to get more showings and increase the number of offers that you get. So yeah, you can do it on your own, but do you want to leave money on the table?
I like that. That's a good takeaway. You got to hit on the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out.
That's right. That's absolutely
huge.
Right.
And by the way, Misty, you got to tell Misty has a question for you, but I'm not going to. She's asking me in a private message. I'm going to make her post it in the Facebook page that she's watching on. So Misty, you got to ask the question there. So for us to answer, everybody's got to ask their questions right there on the Facebook page. But it's a great question. And by the way, shout out, we got Sandy Stites watching as well. There's a big one right there. Holy crud! That you want to talk about a producer. Welcome, Sandy. Good to have you on. So here's what I want to know. How are you, so what lead sources are you using? They're the best lead sources you have right now. And then we'll go into how you're converting each one into an appointment.
Okay.
Well, start with your top two. Give us your top two lead sources.
Okay. So I do a lot of for sale by owner and expired calls. Those are probably the ones that I'm calling most every single day because there's just more of them. Excuse me. But I would say, probably my best, I think anybody's best lead source is past clients and sphere of influence, but that's something that's a little bit more difficult to scale. I think that I saw statistics that about 64% of agents' business comes from past clients and sphere of influence and referrals and stuff like that. But that's, that's an average. So like you get people who, a new agent comes in and they sell a house to their mom and their brother and their best friend, and they do 3 deals all year. Well, 100% of their business comes from that. And then you get teams like ours that do 200-300 transactions a year. It's a little harder to scale sphere of influence. I mean, you can certainly go sell more houses and increase your sphere that way. But it's, on a team where you're doing 200 or 300 transactions a year, your sphere of influence and referrals are probably going to make up somewhere around 10, 15, maybe 20% of your business versus, in the 60s. So, that is an average, but, with sphere of influence and referrals, one thing that's worked really well for our team is doing really big client events. We try to do 4 of those a year, and just having a reason other than, hey, calling a past client or something, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy? If you have a whole different reason to reach out to them and invite them to something, you don't have to always be asking for business. You just have to keep reminding them that you're in the business and get them to come, socialize with you and all the other clients. And that has done a real good job for us since we started doing those client events, that we're starting to get more referrals and more repeat business. I've been in the business I'm in my 3rd year now, and I'm starting to get repeat clients already. So I've probably got 4 contracts right now that were from previous clients. So that's been doing really well for me. But for sale by owners and expireds, I get on Vulcan 7 every morning, and I typically, I'm not calling the people when they first hit the market because they're going to get 50 or 60 calls from other agents. I'm giving it, on for sale by owners anyway, I'm giving it about a week before I really start calling those people, because by then most of the agents that called them on day 1 have already given up on trying to follow up with them. So that's the perfect time for me to come in and start building value and having me come over and showing them my marketing plan and showing, how our team is able to get houses sold for top dollar in the shortest amount of time and just by creating maximum exposure. So for sale by owners is a really good thing. I mean, for sale by owners and expireds, those are people are wanting to sell their house. They're raising their hand saying, help me, please, I need to sell my house. And it's really easy to get in front of those people. Now you're going to be probably one of 5 to 10 other agents that's calling them, but the fortune is in the follow-up. I've heard and said over and over and over. And if you stay in front of them and you're there to help them and provide value to them, they'll end up listing, with you if you stay in front of them and you're not there to try to just sell them. You're there to provide value, offering them suggestions. One of my favorite things to do with a for sale by owner is go over there and show them my marketing plan and say, I know you're trying to do this on your own. Let me show you what you can do to get it done on your own without having to use me. And then basically my strategy is to just overwhelm them a little bit with how much it takes on our end, it's a full-time job, and they've already got a full-time job. Hopefully most of them do. But you know, I just like to overwhelm them and say, here's, you know, when I'm showing them like Facebook and Craigslist stuff, I tell them, here's some things that you can do. And then I'll, you know, go through different parts of my presentation where it's like building websites and getting it on, you know, different, through the Facebook targeting, and say, this is probably something that you're not going to have the time to do. But when you list with me, this is what we're going to be doing to get your house more exposure and to get more people in here. So I love working with for sale by owners and expireds. You know, in our market, I go on a lot of for sale by owner appointments that they do end up selling without me. But I get, and it's kind of funny, I get people, I get for sale by owners all the time who, when I go and talk to them, they'll ask me, why are you showing me all this stuff that's going to help me get it sold without you? And my response to that is always, I'm here to provide a service, and you may be willing to do all of this on your own, but your best friend or your coworker may not have that drive and may not want to do all these things. So if I'm able to show you what to do and you're successful based on my suggestions, if you hear of somebody else wanting to sell their house, who are you going to recommend? And they're all like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I just, you know, we're in a service business. We're not in a sales business. So I'm just trying to provide as much service and value as I can to everybody I come in contact with, whether that's a for sale by owner, expired, or whatever.
I love it. I'm typing that in right now, bringing value even before you get the listing. That's huge.
Right.
So a couple of things that you touched on that I want to go a little bit deeper on. Number one was the client events. So you're talking about lead generation sources. And by the way, for those of you that are just joining us, Eric is actually one of the speakers at Listing Agent Bootcamp. We are literally down to, so we actually sold out of tickets, and we had to rearrange the space in the room to fit 50 more people, which we were able to do. And now we're literally down to 9 tickets left as of today, and that's assuming that people didn't sign up in the last hour that I'm not aware of. But that being said, if you haven't already signed up for Listing Agent Bootcamp, go to clubwealth.com/LABC, get signed up. I'll tell you what, you'll miss out. If you don't go to this event, you are going to wish you had, and you're going to see that you've missed out based on what everybody else comes away with it with. So that being said, I want to talk about the client events real quick. So you were talking about for sale by owners, expireds, and client events as being 3 of your best sources. I know you've got several others that we're going to touch on in just a second. But you said it's important to do 4 client events per year. And
Right.
by the way, I agree with that. I think that it's huge. So how are you turning client events into listings?
You know, it's all about just getting in front of those people again and inviting them and their friends and family to these events that we're going to have. And it's a lot easier. People are going to do business with who they like, know, and trust. And so if you can get them in a situation where there's no salesy stuff going on, it's just, hey, come out and have a good time with us. You're one of our past clients. We appreciate you, and we want you to, kind of join our family, so to speak. And so we will invite people to client events, and we tell them it's okay if they bring their friends and family to those events, because that's just more exposure for us. And we're just there, shaking hands and visiting with people, and not trying to, we're not necessarily asking for business. We're just visiting and building those relationships even more.
That's what I wanted to ask, because the reality is when you get that business, it's usually when you make the phone call ahead of the event, right? And they say something like, we're not going to be able to make it to the event, but we were just thinking about selling our home, or we were just thinking about buying a home, or whatever. Okay, so that's huge. And you guys, if you're not doing client events already, you need to be. It's a huge one. Now, let's go to for sale by owners and expireds for a minute. And by the way, before we do, shout out again to Misty Bruton, who mentions that Eric is very close to joining the Club 100, which is essentially 100 transactions closed in the last 12 months. So congratulations, Eric. That's freaking amazing.
Yeah, I'm getting it, man. I'm doing all I can.
I'm stoked to hear that. That's awesome. Good for you. And I know you'll be in it soon, very soon. But she also mentioned, and rightfully so, that you are wicked good at your follow-ups. So we're going to touch on your follow-ups technique here in just a moment.
Okay.
Before we do, tell me this. When you're out meeting with a for sale by owner, are you asking them if they would be interested? Let's say you haven't taken the listing, you know you're not maybe going to get the listing at this point on this first appointment or for whatever reason, or you're on the phone with them. Have you ever used the, hey, we'll hold an open house for you at no cost to your advantage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we do a few different things that we'll do for sale by owner, and open houses is definitely one of them. So you know, I'll offer to hold an open house for sale by owner, and I present it to them as, hey, if I can do some advertising and get a bunch of signs out for you to make this open house really successful, get a lot of people in here, you know, if I can bring you a buyer, that's a win-win for you, but I'll also get a lot more contacts to go sell other houses and maybe some of my other listings. And I've never had a single person tell me no. So we do open houses for sale by owners. We also do a little program where we will offer, we kind of call it a competition. I'm going to compete with you, and if I can sell your house, you know, basically we'll offer to put one of our signs in their yard. They can keep their for sale by owner sign in the yard as well. And then if we are able to attract a buyer based on, we'll take over their Craigslist advertising, and that's really what we will do. We let them still do the Zillow thing that they're already probably doing and forsalebywowner.com, but we'll take over Craigslist advertising and maybe do some stuff on our Facebook page. And I tell them, you know, if I can bring you a buyer before you sell it, you pay me 3%. If you sell it, you just let me know and I'll come get my sign and we'll stop advertising it. And I'll also offer to put a lockbox on their house at no charge.
Whoa, hold on. Why would you put a lockbox on their house? You don't even have it listed.
Well, that's a good question. It's because I don't want any other agent to list that house. So if I can, you know, most agents are calling to their pitches, hey, I may have a buyer for your house. Can I come over and check it out? If there's a lockbox, if I put a lockbox on that house, my seller doesn't have to be there and listen to their pitch. So that gets a lot of agents off of their back. I'll throw a lockbox on your house. And then when other agents call, you say, yeah, bring your buyer over. I've got a lockbox on it and you can show it all you want. So
I gotta share this. It's like a chastity belt for your listing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
I love it, man. That's awesome. Good for you.
We have some success with that. You know, I've got one out there right now that we put a lockbox on about 2 weeks ago, and she's had a couple agents that have, you know, called her wanting to see it, and she says there's a lockbox, and she never hears back from them because they really didn't have a buyer after all. So so I'm sure I'm going to end up listing that one hopefully before this weekend. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, that's a great strategy. I love holding open houses for it's all about building value and providing service for these people. And you gotta, you know, you gotta ask a lot of questions on the front end to figure out what's important to them and what their challenges have been so far, and just find out how it's going, and then see how you can fill in the holes for them to, you know, and that'll ultimately earn your business.
I love it. Okay, so we're running out of time, but I want to make sure we cover a couple of other lead sources really quick here. Number one, and this is one that I know you and I both feel very strongly about. And Tori, I'm going to need you to go back in, because in the description for the call today, it says something else. What I'd like it to say is leadslikecandy.com. And Eric, I know you feel strongly about these guys. I love them. They've been great for me. Talk to me about leadslikecandy.com. What has that done for you, and how are you converting those leads?
So Leads Like Candy, it's also known as ZBuyer, but Leads Like Candy is the Club Wealth link for to get our discount, I believe. Yep. So, you know, ZBuyer or Leads Like Candy is a source where you get a lot of sellers who are looking for a quick sale. They're looking for a cash offer. They need to sell fast. And most of those people aren't willing to take the offers that a quick sale would get them. So, you know, typically when I get a lead comes in to Lead Like Candy, I'm calling them as soon as I can get to that lead, you know, hopefully within a couple minutes of them coming into the system. And then, you know, basically I don't really come right out. In Arkansas, I don't think you have to tell them that you're a real estate agent necessarily when you first talk to them, but I do disclose that. So basically when a new lead comes in, I check Leads Like Candy. I'll get on there, I'll call the person, and the script is basically, Hello, my name is Eric Eby. I'm a local real estate professional. I was calling about the house at 123 Main Street. You filled out a form on one of my websites. Just wanted to see when would be a good time for me to come take a look at it to see if it would be a good fit for me. Would Monday or Tuesday be? And you can talk yourself out of a lot of appointments if you say too much. So typically, the people, sometimes I'll get a response of, well, are you coming to, I'm not interested in listing the house, I just looking for a quick sale. Yes, Mr. Seller, I completely understand. I'm coming over there. I represent several investors in the area. I'm going to come over there and look at it through the investor eyes. And if it looks like it would be a good fit for me or one of my investors, we can get you a quick cash offer within 24 hours. How does that sound? And they're stoked out of their mind to hear that most of the time. So at the appointment, I'll do my pre-homework. I'll do my comp report, my CMA and everything. And I'll go over there and basically, walk them, ask them a lot of questions about try to get their motivation, find out why they're looking to sell and why they need to sell so fast. And then I tell them, okay, I'll go through the CMA with them and say, all right, looks like your house is worth $200,000. As an investor, obviously we're in the business to make money, so I can give you an offer about $130,000. How's that sound? And 99% of the time they're like, my house is worth $200,000. You're only going to give me $130 for it. There's no way I want to do that. And I say, I completely understand. I probably wouldn't want to do that either. I can show you how we can keep all the equity for yourself if you're willing to wait 30 or 45 or 60 days. And they're like, okay, let me see what you've got. And then I go into my listing presentation and then I, sign them up.
Boom. I love that. That's awesome. Okay. So 2 last things and we're almost out of time. So really quick, tell us, first of all, Misty mentions your NLP story on your recent listing. She said it was awesome. What's your NLP story? By the way, for those of you that don't know, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. We teach it a lot in Club Wealth. Jesse Zagorski and Joel Rico both teach classes on NLP in different styles, different methods. But Eric, tell us your story.
So I'm in the language of agreement class right now that Joel Rico is doing. And, Brian has gone over a lot of this stuff with our whole team. So I love the psychology of sales. So I signed up for it, not because I thought I really needed it. I just wanted to get some more polish on, my, getting into agreement and overcoming objections and that thing. And so one of the weeks that we had, Joel was going over how to identify if somebody is auditory or visual or kinesthetic. And so I had a seller who was interviewing a couple of other agents, and he called me up and he said, he said, I'm going to interview a couple more agents, call me back on Thursday or whatever it was. And so I called him on Thursday and I started talking, it's like, are you ready to list? And he goes, well, I do have some questions for you. I said, okay, shoot. And he says, well, I was watching the Fox Business Channel the other day, and they had a real estate expert on there who was talking about something. He didn't know how to explain it, but it basically sounded like a flat fee listing agreement kind of thing. And he said the expert on that show was talking about how it costs the same to sell a $600,000 house that it does a $100,000 house. And so he was trying to get me to reduce my commission because his house was $300,000. And he said, it costs you the same to sell my house as it does a $100,000 house. And I said, I definitely hear what you're saying, because he has said he had heard the guy on the TV, talking about this. So I said, I definitely hear what you're saying. And it sounds to me like the most important thing to you is netting the most amount of money. Is that correct? And he said, well, yeah, I guess that's really what it boils down to. And I said, and I completely understand where you're getting this information. I said, I've heard a lot of average agents do spend the same amount of money on their marketing that they do on a $100,000 house that they do on a $600,000 house. I said, but I feel like the reason that you are even considering in me is because our team is not average and we're not going to do the average amount of marketing. And I said, my goal is to net you the most amount of money as I can. And so in order to do that, I've got to do a couple things. The one thing is I've got to pay a buyer's agent the full 3% commission. You understand that that's how your house is going to get shown, right? And he said, yeah, that makes sense. And I said, so if I start reducing my commission, you know, I've got to pay the buyer's agent 3%. So if I start taking money out of my 3%, I'm really eating into my marketing budget. Now, you understand from the conversation that we had that in order to get you top dollar in the shortest amount of time, I've got to have maximum exposure online. An average agent is probably just going to put it on their Facebook page and put it on the MLS and pray that somebody comes and sells it. They're only going to spend X amount of dollars on every one of their listings. Our team is not average, and you understand that. So I'm going to need every dollar that I have for my marketing budget to get you top dollar in the shortest amount of time. Does that make sense? He said, yeah, it actually does. He said, can you send the contract over right now? I said, absolutely. And we got it sold in 2 days.
And you didn't even have to go back out to get it signed.
No, and we sold it for $5,000 over asking price. So he was super.
Love it. Boom. Watch this. Here's Eric right here. Mic drop. I love it. That's awesome, man.
So I just want to say the next time that language of agreement class is offered through Club Wealth, you guys really need to sign up for that. You know, I've had a lot of experience with the NLP or whatever it said, NLP, but it's no matter what your skill level is, you're going to get something out of that class. And Joel is phenomenal at that stuff, and the way he delivers the class. The homework that he assigns, it's a very, very good class. It's well worth the money. You'll close way more than one deal off of it. So yep. I want to encourage anybody who's, you know, having trouble with scripting or, you know, what to say to people, take that class. You'll learn a ton of good information from Joel.
Love it. And that's actually, you can get there if you want to see when his classes are with us. Just go to www.clubwealth.com/Joel Rico, and that'll take you to that class. And Jesse Zagorski's working on a great one too. In fact, we're going to be having that. That's going to be in our new Club Wealth University, which gets announced at Listing Agent Bootcamp. Super excited.
I think he just announced it.
Well, you can't sign up for Club Wealth University at this point. It's not available yet. Gotcha. But it will become available very soon, and we're very excited about it. Awesome. So that being said, we are out of time. So everybody, check it out. Come see Eric at Listing Agent Bootcamp. Eric is a freaking rock star. As you know, he's going to be one of the speakers at Listing Agent Bootcamp, and is going to be talking more in detail about the top lead sources that are helping him list more homes. And by the way, in his rolling 12-month average, Eric is almost at the 100 transaction mark in the last rolling 12 months. And so, guys, that's a freaking big deal. I don't know how many of you listed 100 homes in the last 12 months, but you're looking at one right now that's killing it. So that being said, get signed up, clubwealth.com/LABC. Eric Eby, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Super excited to see you here. We're just talking about 3 weeks or so that I get to see you in Denver for Listing Agent Bootcamp. So we'll see you there. And that's right. We will have spare ties there if you happen to forget yours. No worries. Just FYI.
I won't forget them.
I love it. Derek Jackson loves that one. He ask him what happens when you get ready to go on stage and you don't have a tie on.
Mike Cuevas could probably say the same thing.
That's actually Cuevas had to borrow one too, and so did Sam. Yeah, it's a common theme. All right. Well, that being said, we've got to wrap up. Everybody, and by the way, actually, Eric, before I wrap it up, any parting thoughts before we end?
Man, just sign up for Listing Agent Bootcamp if you haven't already. If you got any value out of this short little 20 minutes, you are going to be blown away from the 3 days at Listing Agent Bootcamp. It's going to be like taking a sip from a fire hose, but just implement 1 or 2 things that you learn, and it will absolutely change your business and your life.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much for that. And by the way, for my biggest takeaway, I love the lockbox on the house, the chastity belt on the for sale by owner, if you will, that keeps other agents from coming in and swooping that listing out from under you. So that was great advice, and as was all your other advice for us today. So everybody remember, inside each one of you, there's a world-class beast just dying to get out. You got to choose to unleash that beast. So Go do something today at a world-class level, even if it's just making your freaking bed. Make it at a world-class level, and we'll see you at Listing Agent Bootcamp. Thanks again, Eric.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.